Hey guys, Coherence here. HoYoverse has just dropped the first Sumeru preview teaser, and boy is there a lot to unpack here. We've got stuff with the Dendro reaction, we've got stuff with the environment, reacting with our elements, Dendro Traveler, a familiar looking plant friend, just lots of content here to unpack. So to kick things off, we can see the Traveler here, obtaining the power of Dendro. Then we have what looks like the elemental skill, quite reminiscent of Kaya's skill. And finally the elemental burst, which looks like a deployable type of summon, so this will probably have some kind of off-field Dendro application. Now it wasn't too obvious on the grass, but here we can see there's a green ring created by Dendro Traveler's burst, so I would assume that probably gives a buff to the team or debuffs to enemies. Also glad to see that the Electro Redis vine doesn't just feel like a straight up recolor. It also isn't straight purple, which is kind of like the Electro slimes. Alright, so the bloom reaction, looks like it creates this apple seed. What, do you eat it and get plus 1000 attack? Okay. I wouldn't mind. Well, what we actually do is we apply a follow-up element and that triggers another reaction. Something interesting to note here is that even though the explosion was from pyro, the damage seems to not be pyro damage because only 2 out of the 3 hillochells are affected with pyro afterward, which leads me to believe that this explosion is Dendro damage and the other 2 just took pyro damage from Yanfei. In fact, we even see the grass burning, which means Yanfei applied pyro, the explosion applied Dendro, and the 2 hillochells now have burning status. Alternatively, striking the seed with Electro will trigger Catalyze. And in typical me HoYoverse fashion, instead of just explaining Catalyze normally, we got this completely original effect. Energy aspect from the Electro element. Wisdom concept from the Dendro element. Deep connection with the local history of Sumeru. Poetic. And in English that means enemies get this yellow electro aura. Yup. Also we can see here that Catalyze can be triggered directly without a bloom seed. Judging by the animation, Catalyze doesn't seem to do much if any raw damage, and the slime doesn't seem to be crowd controlled either, so I'm inclined to believe that it's probably a debuff. And it looks like Kuchin got buffed, unless this is the Catalyze reaction at play. Actually, knowing miHoYo for years now, this probably isn't a direct buff. There's also this exploration mechanic where you take a dead mushroom, apply Dendro, apply another element, and then get results. Catalyze makes you bounce higher than normal. Bloom just blooms, I guess. Not sure why we need the seed there. And burning just kills it. Good job. Now you're probably wondering, what about Cryo? What about Geo? What about Animo? Well, this is just Dendro Teaser 1, so there could be more to come, but they also might not. Looking at all the new Dendro reactions, they're all dependent on Electro, which has led me to conclude that Dendro is intended to be an Electro buff. One of the types of teams where Electro is the strongest is Taser, so I think it makes perfect sense that Dendro can react with Hydro and Electro. And I don't think Cryo and Animo really lose out in the end. If you know your elemental gauge theory, you know that burning applies 2 units of Pyro. So all you need to do is reapply Dendro, and you've got a lot of pyro to work with, which means you can get a lot more melts than usual. For example, Melt Ganyu normally doesn't burst because she'll apply too much cryo, but with a burning reaction, that could very well change. So if HoYo releases a character that can apply Dendro all around you as you move around and off field, preferably a shooter as well, then that could be a buff to Melt Ganyu, for example. As for Animo, Animo can just swirl Pyro, Hydro, and Electro into Dendro, and then the Geo characters just pair with other Geo characters anyway. Honestly, with Dendro, we're going to be triggering so many more reactions in the same amount of time, and that makes me wonder about how much more valuable EM will become on a lot of characters. Then there's Kazuha, but honestly, the Animo characters in general can just build full EM and get some chain reactions going. Also, a C2 Kazuha or a well-built Sucrose could also share a bunch of EM to the teammates. Well, those have been my thoughts on all the Dendro reactions and the new Sumeru content coming soon. And with that, I have been Coherence, and thanks for watching.